In the shadows of the criminal underworld, where cunning reigns and empires are built on vice, operate the sisterhoods of sin.
This is not the game to be in. This is something that I definitely need to get away from.
Here, amidst the ruthlessness and deception, we unveil the 15 most dangerous female criminal organizations in the world. Starting with number 15, Ma Barker. Ma Barker gained a notorious reputation as a ruthless crime matriarch who controlled and organized the criminal activities of her sons, and later, the Barker Karpis gang. In the 1930s, J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, described her as the most vicious, dangerous, and resourceful criminal brain of the last decade. Later films and songs portrayed her as a monstrous mother figure, but recent reports suggest Ma Barker's role in her son's crimes was likely exaggerated by the media to boost sales, and by Hoover to justify the FBI's killing of an elderly woman in a 1935 shootout. Born Arizona Donnie Clark in Missouri, she married George Barker in 1892 and had 4 sons: Herman, Lloyd, Arthur, and Fred. The Barker boys were involved in criminal activities from an early age, with Herman arrested for robbery in 1910 after running over a child during a getaway. As their crimes escalated to robbery and murder, the Central Park Gang initiated them into major crime. By the late 1920s, the sons were in and out of prison, while George, described as shiftless by the FBI, abandoned the criminal family. With her husband gone and sons behind bars, Ma lived in poverty until Fred's 1931 release, when he formed the Barker Karpis gang with Alvin Karpis. They committed a string of robberies, culminating in the kidnappings of businessmen William Ham and Edward Bremer for over $30,000 in ransom. As the FBI closed in, the gang went on the run, with Ma sometimes accompanying them under aliases. A resident spotted them in St. Paul, but corrupt police chief Tom Brown tipped them off before they could be arrested. Ultimately, the FBI tracked the gang to a Florida house in January 1935. In a dramatic shootout, agents killed Ma and her son Fred, whose bodies were found riddled with bullets. Though Hoover portrayed Ma as the vicious criminal mastermind to justify her death, historians widely regard this as fiction created to excuse killing an elderly woman. Her role remains debated, but Ma's name became infamous in the lore of Depression-era outlaw gangs. Next, number 14, Enadina Arellano Felix. Enadina Arellano Felix, alongside her brothers, was a key figure in establishing the notorious Tijuana cartel. Enadina was more than just a member of the cartel. She played a crucial role as its logistical accountants, overseeing the intricate financial operations that supported their illegal activities. In the realm of organized crime, where men often dominate the headlines, Enadina Arellano Felix stood out as a formidable woman wielding power and influence in one of Mexico's most notorious drug cartels. Her strategic acumen and ability to navigate the intricate networks of the criminal underworld earned her a place among the most dangerous female figures in global crime history. Beyond the sensationalized narratives often associated with criminal enterprises, Enadina's story is a testament to the complex realities of power and survival in a world where choices are often shaded by necessity rather than preference. Her journey underscores the blurred lines between morality and necessity in environments shaped by violence and lawlessness. Thereafter, number 13, Griselda Blanco. Miami, Florida was thriving in the late 1970s, while the majority of America was experiencing a recession. But Griselda Blanco's vicious drug empire drove a heavy price for this unrelenting march toward progress. She would confess to being in charge of a vast cocaine trafficking operation, planning to bring in literally tons of the drug and arranging scores of killings in the process. After fleeing her war-torn Colombian homeland in 1974, Blanco started at the bottom of the drug trade but quickly rose to become one of the leading distributors for the infamous Medellin cartel. At the height of her reign over Miami's underworld, cocaine use was rampant, with thousands of illegal Colombians living and working in the billion-dollar industry. The situation became so out of control that President Reagan declared war on drugs in South Florida, flooding the area with federal agents. But Blanco and the cartels had already deeply embedded themselves, using drug profits to fund an unprecedented real estate boom across Miami. Cash from the cocaine trade poured into banks, which then loaned it out to businesses, homebuyers, and developers, transforming the city's landscape virtually overnight with new condominiums and properties worth over $1 billion. Law enforcement finally amassed enough evidence to charge Blanco with 3 1982 murders, lining up her former henchmen to testify against the Godmother. However, the government's case disastrously unraveled when their star witness had an affair with a prosecutor's secretary, resulting in a scandal that forced dismissals and the witnesses being deemed not credible. In a shocking turn of events, Blanco pleaded guilty in 1998 and received just 10 years in prison. After her 2004 release and deportation to Colombia, investigators believed the woman, who had made countless enemies, wouldn't survive. But Blanco seemed to simply disappear into obscurity after being spotted at a Bogota airport in 2007. Though Blanco escaped a harsh sentence, her legacy is one of violence, greed, and Miami's transformation into a narco-fueled boomtown in the late 20th century. She pioneered cocaine trafficking on an unprecedented scale and became one of the most powerful female crime bosses. Subsequently, number 12, Marjorie Chacon Rossell. The popular Netflix series Queen of the South was inspired by the daring exploits of Guatemalan drug lord Marjorie Chacon. Chacon, who was born in Guatemala City in 1972, abandoned his studies in psychology and education to focus on his more profitable pursuits of money laundering and the transportation of cocaine. By 2004, when she was in her early 30s, she had established a business that laundered millions of dollars worth of profits each month while supplying shipments to Mexican drug cartels like Sinaloa. Because of her connections to dishonest government officials, her smuggling operation was able to transport cocaine from Colombia through Guatemala and into the United States. Chacon's rise was meteoric after brokering a huge cocaine deal between Colombian suppliers and Mexican buyers in 2004. At her peak, she was branded a kingpin by the U.S. Treasury Department for laundering $10 million per month in drug money. However, Chacon's empire began crumbling in 2008 when DEA informants identified her vast trafficking network spanning multiple countries. In 2014, facing overwhelming evidence, including testimony from former associates, Chacon turned herself in to U.S. authorities. Charged with conspiring to move over 5 kilos of cocaine, she shockingly received just 26 years in prison after flipping on her criminal partners. Her cooperation led to the downfall of high-ranking Guatemalan officials like the vice president who had enabled her reign. In exchange for this assistance as a confidential informant, Chacon's sentence was greatly reduced to less than 10 years. After her release, she remains under strict supervision. The fallen queen's criminal days seem over. Upcoming, number 11, Jemiker Thompson. Jemiker Thompson was a former drug queenpin whose story is both cautionary and inspirational. In the 1980s, Jemiker Thompson went by the name Jemiker Husband when she was a wealthy Beverly Hills socialite who had it all: luxury cars, vacation homes, and enough cash to live like a Hollywood star. It all started when she dropped out of college after her sophomore year. Yemaker says she started her own business out of frustration when she couldn't find a job after graduating with an MBA. She started small by investing the $100 she had gotten for her university graduation in what she thought was a party planning business. But it quickly grew bigger than she imagined. Potential clients and event hosts started reaching out to her after seeing the extravagant party planning her company, husband and wife, did for university events. By her senior year at UCLA, she had a database of over 5,000 clients, and throwing lavish parties became what Yemaker did full-time. However, Yemaker's dreams of being an entrepreneur came crashing down in 1986, when she was arrested and charged with criminal fraud by federal agents who had been investigating her company. Husband and wife party planning. Then, number 10, Ana Maria Hernandez. Ana Maria Hernandez hailed from a middle-class Mexican family in Aguascalientes. From a young age, she embraced the risky criminal life against her family's wishes. In the late 1990s, federal agents received a tip-off about her involvement in a drug trafficking organization operating out of Aguascalientes. In 1999, they conducted a raid of her home, where they found over $1 million worth of U.S. currency and Mexican currency believed to be the intake from drug sales over the span of several months. During the raid where federal agents gained entry, Ana Maria attempted to escape through her bedroom window with her kids in tow, aggressively demanding that they throw away and conceal evidence of drug dealing activity. One of her children was caught with over $7 million worth of cash hidden behind car batteries in a GMC van. She was arrested in her home shortly after the raid with evidence that she had masterminded a drug trafficking ring that sold both cocaine and methamphetamine throughout the Aguascalientes area and neighboring states within Mexico. Her trial gained notoriety, not for the drug dealing charges themselves, but because of the lengths to which she went to conceal the evidence of her crimes. Evidence was found that she had put her 2 sons in student housing at the same university to conceal their true criminal activities. It's been over 20 years since her arrest, and while she's been released from federal prison due to her cooperation with authorities, the names of her sons have never been given out. Federal agents only referred to them by their code names, Dog Food and Beastie. When asked about these names in an interview years later, Hernandez stated, "I didn't give them those names. They got them from their ruthless criminal activities and need to conceal their activities from authorities. They are a shame upon my family. I did not raise them to be that way." Her full cooperation led to her ultimate release from federal prison in 2013 after serving 14 years. Upon release, federal agents reportedly agreed she was telling the truth when she stated, "I did not raise them to live that criminal life." Following number 9, Mary Valencia. Mary Valencia, known as La Mexicana, was a notorious Colombian drug trafficker and money launderer who operated in the 1990s and early 2000s. Originally from Cali, Colombia, she got her start working for the Cali cartel before breaking off to form her own criminal organization. Valencia's network specialized in smuggling cocaine from Colombia to the United States, utilizing contacts and routes through Mexico. She built up a sophisticated money laundering operation to handle the cash proceeds, investing in legitimate businesses as fronts. One of her most lucrative fronts was a chain of clothing stores called Valentino Moda that had over 20 locations across Colombia and Panama. Authorities estimated these stores laundered over $50 million per year from Valencia's cocaine trafficking. In addition to the clothing business, Valencia invested heavily in real estate, purchasing apartment complexes, houses, and commercial properties to integrate her illicit profits. She owned luxury homes in cities like Miami, Panama City, and Cartagena. Valencia lived a lavish lifestyle, driving luxury vehicles and staying at high-end hotels and resorts. However, she tried to keep a low profile to avoid law enforcement scrutiny. Her downfall came in 2003 when Colombian authorities received an anonymous tip about her money laundering operations. A multi-year international investigation called Operation Dirty Laundry followed. It involved law enforcement from Colombia, Mexico, Panama, and the United States. They unraveled Valencia's complex network of front companies and money movements. In 2007, Valencia was arrested in Cartagena in a joint operation by Colombian and U.S. authorities. She was extradited to the U.S. and found guilty in 2010 on charges of drug trafficking, money laundering, and racketeering. Mary Valencia was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Prosecutors stated that her crime organization moved over 100 tons of cocaine worth billions and laundered over $1 billion in proceeds during its height in the 1990s. Her case was considered one of the biggest money laundering prosecutions in U.S. history at the time. Formerly number 8, Angie Sanclemente Valencia. Angie Sanclemente Valencia was a powerful Colombian drug lord who ran a major cocaine trafficking operation in the 2000s. She was known as La Mexicana, or the Mexican, due to her ties to Mexican cartels. Originally from Cali, Colombia, Sanclemente got her start working for the remnants of the notorious Cali cartel in the late 1990s after its leaders were arrested. She quickly rose through the ranks by cultivating relationships with Mexican traffickers. By the early 2000s, Sanclemente had formed her own criminal organization that transported multi-ton shipments of cocaine from Colombia to Mexico, moving the drugs through Central America using go-fast boats, semi-submersible vessels, and containerized maritime shipments. Once in Mexico, her product was sold to groups like the Sinaloa Cartel and the Gulf Cartel for distribution into the United States. Sanclemente also received multi-million-dollar payments from the Mexicans for each shipment through an intricate money laundering network. Sanclemente surrounded herself with heavy security, employing over 100 armed guards to protect her organization's turf. She was known to be extremely violent, allegedly ordering the deaths of over 200 people during drug feuds. Her criminal empire started crumbling in 2007 after an associate was arrested and became an informant for U.S. authorities. This launched a multi-year, multinational investigation called Operation Coronado. In 2010, Sanclemente was captured in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where she had been living under an alias. She was extradited to the U.S. and convicted in 2012 on charges of drug trafficking, money laundering, and running a criminal enterprise. Sanclemente was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. Prosecutors stated she was responsible for smuggling over 500 tons of cocaine worth over $10 billion during her decade running the operation. It was one of the largest drug trafficking cases ever prosecuted against a Colombian national at the time. Next, number 7, Stephanie St. Clair. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Stephanie St. Clair, also referred to as the Queen of the Ramochis, ruled over a large area of Spanish Harlem, New York, as a notorious female gang leader and drug dealer. Originally from Puerto Rico, St. Clair moved to New York City as a teenager and quickly fell into a life of crime on the streets of East Harlem. She joined the Ramochis, a predominantly Puerto Rican street gang, and rapidly rose through the ranks due to her ruthlessness and business savvy. By the late 1970s, Claire had taken over as the leader of the Ramochis and expanded their criminal activities into large-scale drug trafficking. She built connections with suppliers in Colombia and the Dominican Republic to bring heroin and cocaine into New York. Claire was a pioneering female crime boss who took an extremely hands-on role in the gang's operations. She would allegedly dress like a man, personally make drug deals, and collect payments while armed. Her tight control and violent enforcement tactics allowed the Ramochis to dominate the lucrative drug trade in Spanish Harlem for over a decade. Law enforcement estimated St. Clair's net worth was in the tens of millions from drug profits. However, her propensity for violence ultimately led to her downfall. In 1986, St. Clair ordered the brutal murders of two youths she accused of robbing her drug operations. This sparked an outcry in the community and increased police scrutiny. After a lengthy investigation involving wiretaps and undercover officers, Claire was arrested in 1988 along with over 20 members of her crew. She was convicted in 1990 on charges including racketeering, drug trafficking, murder, and weapons violations. Claire was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Prosecutors stated she had ordered over a dozen murders during her reign, overseeing a $40 million per year heroin and cocaine distribution network operating throughout New York City housing projects. Now in her 70s, Claire was released from prison in 2021 after serving over 30 years. Her story was featured in the book Queen of the Baroches, as well as in television documentaries about powerful female gangsters. Upcoming number 6, Sandra Avila Beltran. Sandra Avila Beltran was a powerful Mexican drug trafficker who ran operations for the Sinaloa cartel in the 2000s. She earned her nickname Queen of the Pacific for controlling narcotic shipments along Mexico's Pacific coast. Born in 1960 in Culiacan, Sinaloa, Beltran came from a family immersed in the drug trade. Her uncle was a high-ranking member of the Sinaloa cartel who helped her get started in the business in the 1980s. Beltran quickly proved herself as a capable trafficker, coordinating air and maritime cocaine shipments from Colombia into Mexico. She cultivated important political connections to receive protection and information on law enforcement operations. At her peak in the late 2000s, Beltran was believed to be one of the Sinaloa cartel's highest-ranking female operatives. She oversaw the smuggling of tons of cocaine into the U.S. each year, with transportation routes spanning from Colombia to Chicago. Her criminal empire extended into money laundering as well. Beltran adeptly laundered billions of dollars in drug proceeds by purchasing real estate, businesses, horses, and luxury items. She lived an extremely affluent lifestyle, surrounded by armed bodyguards in Mexico City. Beltran owned luxury properties across Mexico, as well as a professional soccer team and a nursery company. Beltran tried to keep a low profile, but drew increased law enforcement scrutiny as her wealth and power grew. In 2007, Mexican authorities arrested her on charges of organized crime and money laundering. She ended up spending over 5 years in a Mexican prison while her extradition case to the United States worked through the courts. Beltran was finally extradited to the U.S. in 2012 to face charges of cocaine distribution. In 2013, Beltran pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges and was sentenced to 70 months in prison. Though considered a high-priority target, her cooperation and payment of $16 million helped reduce her sentence. Even after serving prison time, Beltran is believed to still wield significant influence and maintain ties to the Sinaloa cartel's narcotics network extending into the U.S. Formerly, number 5, Melissa Calderon. Melissa Calderon, better known as La China, wasn't your average cartel moll. This woman carved her own bloody path in the drug trade, becoming a feared assassin and leader in her own right. La China was born in 1984, but her story really begins in 2005 when she became a member of the notorious Sinaloa cartel. La China's ruthlessness and ambition saw her rise meteorically. She wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty, becoming a top hit woman, credited with over 150 murders. Imagine the ice water running through your veins to pull off that kind of body count. But La China wasn't content with being a hired gun. She craved power. She became the leader of Los Fuerzas Especiales de los Damaso, an enforcer group within the Sinaloa cartel, working for Capo Damaso Lopez Nunez. However, loyalty is a fickle thing in the cartel world. When a rival leader, El Grande, had her first boyfriend whacked, La China saw red. This is where things get wild. La China, fueled by revenge, defied the cartel hierarchy and formed her own crew, Cartel California Sur, with her then-boyfriend El Chino Lopez. La China's story is shrouded in mystery. Authorities captured her in 2015, supposedly betrayed by her own boyfriend. What happened next is unclear. Some reports say she's still behind bars. Others whisper rumors of her escape or even death. One thing's for sure, La China's reign as a narco queen and renegade left a bloody mark on the Mexican underworld. Next, number 4, Thelma Wright. The story of Thelma Wright isn't your typical gangster narrative. Forget gun-toting malls or flashy kingpins. Thelma Wright was a Philadelphia housewife who, through a twist of fate, became an unlikely drug kingpin. Imagine living a seemingly normal life, then wham! Your husband, Jackie Wright, a major player in the Philly drug scene, gets murdered. Devastated but resourceful, Thelma decides to take matters into her own hands. She wasn't about to let her family crumble or the business go belly up. In the early 1990s, Thelma, with surprising cunning, stepped into the shadows her husband left behind. She leveraged her existing connections and surprised everyone, including law enforcement, by taking control of a bi-coastal drug operation. Thelma, however, wasn't just a lucky housewife. She proved to be a shrewd leader, keeping a low profile while expanding the operation. She even earned the nickname the Queen for her control and influence. But the life of a drug lord is never smooth sailing. A string of tragedies in 1991, including the death of a close associate and the arrest of another, forced Thelma to reevaluate her path. Instead of doubling down on the criminal life, Thelma made a daring choice. She walked away. She left the drug trade behind, choosing to focus on her son and building a new life. Thelma's journey from unsuspecting housewife to powerful drug queen and, ultimately, redemption makes her a truly unique figure in the world of crime. She serves as a reminder that even the most seemingly ordinary lives can take unexpected turns, and that sometimes the most dramatic escapes aren't from prison bars, but from the clutches of a dangerous world. Then number 3. Claudia Ochoa Felix. Due to her striking likeness to the doll and her flamboyant social media presence, Claudia Ochoa Felix earned the nickname La Barbie, projecting an image of luxury and glamour that was very different from the grim realities of life in the cartel. Born in 1987, details about Claudia's early life are hazy. Rumors swirled that she was a high-ranking leader of Los Antrax, a brutal enforcer group within the infamous Sinaloa cartel. Imagine a young woman posting photos with designer handbags and gold-plated AK-47s, all while allegedly running a crew of assassins. The image was certainly captivating, and for a while, Claudia reveled in the online notoriety. However, Claudia vehemently denied any involvement with organized crime, dismissing the rumors as cowardly lies. Whether she was a cunning criminal mastermind playing an elaborate online persona, or simply a woman enjoying a lavish lifestyle financed by a wealthy mystery man, remains a subject of debate. The mystery surrounding Claudia deepened in 2019. She was found dead in her Culiacan residence, with authorities citing a drug overdose as the cause. But whispers of foul play persisted, with some speculating her death was linked to her alleged cartel ties. Formerly number 2, Jacian Silva Teixeira. Jacian Silva Teixeira is a figure whose notoriety spans beyond the borders of Brazil. At 31 years old, she has earned the reputation of being the most prominent drug trafficker in the state of Bahia. Known for her audacious operations and alleged connections to a formidable arsenal, including machine guns and grenades, Jassian, often referred to by authorities as a formidable force in the criminal underworld, has captured headlines with her strategic prowess and organizational skills. Her rise to prominence illustrates the complexities and dangers associated with illicit enterprises, where power and influence are wielded with calculated precision. As we delve deeper into Jassiani's background, we uncover a narrative that goes beyond mere criminality, delving into the socio-economic dynamics and personal motivations that shape her journey. Finally, number 1. Maria Guadalupe Lopez, Esquivel. Maria Guadalupe Lopez Esquivel, also known by the chilling alias La Catrina, the Skeleton Lady, gained notoriety as a leader in the Mexican drug cartel underworld. Details about her early life remain scarce, but she rose to prominence at a young age, believed to be around 21 years old at the time of her death. Esquivel's claim to infamy stemmed from her leadership of a ruthless hit squad within the cartel. She garnered a reputation for extreme violence, solidifying her position through fear and brutality. Local media reports depict her as a central figure in a violent shootout with Mexican authorities in the state of Michoacán. The public learned more about Esquivel after the incident. Graphic footage, allegedly captured from a police body camera, emerged showing a woman believed to be Esquivel, bloodied from a gunshot wound to the neck, lying amongst the aftermath of the confrontation. This, along with witness accounts, seemingly confirmed her demise at the hands of law enforcement. We are coming to an end here today. Thanks for watching. And for such top listing videos, subscribe to our channel.